Good morning. Somehow I finally got let into the meeting.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Or afternoon, I guess it is for half of the
Yeah.
country. All right. I apologize about that. Technical difficulties. All right. I'm sharing my screen. I don't know. Can you guys see that? Because it's not showing up on mine.
Mhm. I can see it.
You can see it? Okay.
Yeah.
It would help if you could zoom quite a bit, though.
Um, okay. Let's see here.
Bottom right plus sign.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get to where I can see everything. I'm not seeing anything. That's my problem.
I'm here.
All right. Hi, Steve.
I've got, looks like 9 people on the call so far.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure. I can't
10.
see what I'm sharing. That's my problem. All I
And
can see is that I get the gallery. Is there a way to make it show what I'm seeing as well? Not that I'm not a Zoom expert. Anyway, I'll just make this other screen bigger. All right. Is the agenda bigger for you?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
great.
thank you.
All right. All right. Well, for sake of time, let's go ahead and get started here. So welcome everyone to the annual PPD meeting. I'm Jeff Ray. I'm the chair in 2026. And with that, I'm going to have the other executive members introduce themselves as well.
okay. Well, I'm the past chair. I'm Steve Talknell, and I am busy doing, I guess you call it side work, on behalf of the private practice division, and we can talk about that soon.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, Mark. Yeah, I'm mute, Mark.
No, I was on mute. Mark Lundgren, Land Pointer Limited, member at large.
Thanks, Mark. And Tanya?
Tanya De Oliveira, I am your treasurer.
Carly?
Carly Mitchell, Communications Chair.
And Vince.
Vince Cotero, Professional Development Chair, Principal of City Logic, based in Cape Coral, Florida.
Thanks, Vince. Uh, I don't see Bob. I heard from Bob Barber. Okay.
Um,
I think
I
Corey
think
Hole will be joining us late.
Corey was on, but he said he had to knock off early, so he may be in and out.
Yeah, that's correct. And nobody heard from Bob?
I think Bob sent an email out a few days ago saying that um, he would try to make it. I think he did. I'm not sure. It might have been for a previous meeting. I apologize.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, thanks for everybody for getting on that. Steve, I'm going to hand it over to you and talk about our risk management strategies, and then what we
Okay,
had
well, it's
previously
all
worked on.
over, but the shouting. I mean, literally, it's basically down to drafting the report, and the report will be in three parts. The first part will be a peer review. We're going to focus on the ASCE, civil engineers, the Canadian Institute of Planners, and the American Society of Landscape Architects. The closest peer group to the APA is the ASLA, and they offer liability insurance, or they sponsor an agent who offers liability insurance to landscape architects. And the ASA also sells sample agreements that can be used more or less plugged into any agreement that you might have so that you have the language that protects you the most. As far as the risk management workshop that was conducted in February, I'm planning to write up the workshop because it focused on certain risk management guidelines that are especially important or interesting. And the presenters at the workshop were the attorney and the insurance agent from the ASLA. So it fits in together. But if there's one takeaway from the risk management workshop, it's like, you can have all the guidelines and fine print in the world, but you shouldn't deal with people that you can't trust. And I think that's the main takeaway that I would say in my many years of private practice experience. Even people you think you can trust, maybe you shouldn't. But it's really a fool's errand to go after work from people uh, that that aren't trustworthy. I think that's the main takeaway for the whole thing. The third part is going to be a set of guidelines themselves, and hopefully, well, those guidelines will be incorporated into a white paper and a revision to the private practice handbook. So, stay tuned for that. In terms of advancing the interests of the private practice division in getting professional liability insurance more widely available at a more reasonable cost to everyone in the APA, we have started working with an APA board member, Ben Hitchings, who happens to also be a member of the private practice division. He's been very receptive to what we're trying to do, and we need an ally like that in that position to get the APA, I don't know what to call it, leadership, staff, whoever actually runs the organization, to go along with what we're recommending. So it's all there. I'm just kind of up against the writer's block. I where to start. As you can tell, I mean, this meeting is a great opportunity for me to sort of cook it down into actual words, and I plan to read the transcript carefully and use it as my first draft. So
Great. Thanks,
that's
Steve.
the risk management guidelines part. I can go straight on to the value of planning part,
Yeah,
which
go ahead.
uh, has really been eating into my head, I guess is the best way to say it. Um, we started out saying that, well, planners just need to make more money, and uh, comparing ourselves to architects and attorneys and engineers, planners always seem to be getting the short end of the stick in terms of reimbursement for what we do. And we've been working on this problem for a couple of years. Mike Anacave is a member of the private practice division, and I started talking at the National Planning Conference in Philadelphia. I think that was like 3 years ago. And then last November at the executive, what do you call it, the leadership meeting, that Jeff and I attended in Phoenix, Arizona. There was a vote, and the divisions council said, "Well, this will be our divisions council initiative for the upcoming year." And their concept of how to approach this question, when I say concept, the leadership, the what are they called, the co-leaders of the division initiative, um, they're just not on the same wavelength that we've been on. And they're thinking more, I guess you'd call it esoterically about the value of planning. And we've been struggling with that. And the the champions group, has not had a meeting since February, and they wanted to sort of have a fresh start after the National Planning Conference, and then they had a meeting that was scheduled for a week or two ago and was canceled. And I think there's another one next week. But I think on behalf of the private practice division, uh, our interest in advancing the value of planning might take longer to be realized than just this 1 year. So I'm going to wait and see what comes out of this initiative, and then I think we can more or less pick up where we left off before the initiative began. Uh, I'm coming down. I'll tell you my own point of view right now, after looking into this carefully, is that it comes down to the code of ethics. And even though if you don't know what's in the code of ethics, planners are basically looking out for the overall public interest. And whereas attorneys uh, are ethically committed first to their clients, and then the public interest is more or less, comes after that. And architects are the same way. The architects are very committed to their clients. And then on behalf of their clients, they want to do what they can for the public interest. But architects tend to have very wealthy clients. So that puts architects in a position of more of noblesse oblige, I guess you could say, than actually um, advancing the public interest from a broader perspective. And because the APA, especially divisions, has all these population-based divisions, blacks in planning, Latinos, LGBTQ, and so forth. I think the APA is in a very good position to claim, to stake the claim that we are actually acting in the broader public interest vis-a-vis the other professions. If that's going to make us more money or not, I'm not so sure. But planning is more valuable than the other professions to the extent that it depends on a broader consensus. And in the long run, without a broad consensus, you're not really going to get anywhere. You're just going to hit a wall. And I can't tell you how many proclamations I've seen from well-meaning pro bono architects, engineers, and lawyers um, that don't amount to anything. Whereas if you have a planning process in place and everybody knows what you're going to do before you try to do anything, it tends to become more successful. But I don't know how to monetize that. So we'll just take credit for doing a great job and call attention, more attention to our profession, I suppose.
Yeah,
That's my
Steve.
rant.
Thanks, Steve. As I was part of some of those conversations at NPC 26, I think you're absolutely correct. And where what we thought started off as value of the planner turned into the value of planning, and took a little bit different turn. So it's much broader. And then it'll be up to us as PPD to really drill down to become the true value of a planner and take that to the next step in this next year. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, at the risk of offending everyone who's ever in a friendly social or otherwise relationship with an architect, um, I would commend to you the architect specs from Monty Python, and I won't say any more about it than that. But it's 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 so offensive. I can't post the link in good conscience, but it hits pretty hard on this particular point. But yeah, I saw a comment from Rose Scoville. You're absolutely right.
Mhm.
Our clients tend to be in the public sector, and we're obliged to public sector clients, where architects are more, well, I mean, yeah, architects are not so as oriented to the public sector interests as planners.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Vince, can you give us a quick summary on where we've been at professional development and what we can expect here in this next year?
Sure. Um, just a quick recap of the different programs that we've had, conversations thus far. January 23rd, Risk Management Guidelines for Professional Planners was presented by past Chair Steve. February 27th, Chair Jeff talked about how to become a sole proprietor and also provided project management tips. Jeff joined us again on March 27th for a Q&A session with the chair regarding goals, people's perceptions, and Q&A. Our April program was delayed a week because of the National Planning Conference in April. It was conducted May 1, and our speaker was Stan Fitterman, a housing consultant in Tampa, Florida, who presented a presentation on challenges to converting underutilized structures to viable housing units. And I'm traveling today, and I'm actually in a parking lot in a small town in Georgia. And if you hear a train whistle behind me, I apologize. May 22nd, our program was the recap of the National Planning Conference led by Jeff, and everyone who attended participated in that. It was very good discussion. And also our membership chair, Bob Barber, and others, Owen Beisch and Steve, contributed to highlight our fellow member who was selected as a fellow of AICP. And Bob answered a lot of questions about the process that had changed this year. June 26th, the program will be property tax reform in Florida, which is a hot item. There'll be a constitutional amendment on the ballot in November for that. The guest speaker will be Mark Mason, Assistant City Manager for Cape Coral, Florida. He's a former finance director, and he is a finance professional by trade. So we're really looking forward to that. Upcoming programs, July, August, and September, not necessarily in this order. The president of the Florida chapter, Alara Mills-Gutcher, who's a member, will join us for discussion on the newly formed community planning assistance team process. This is an old program that's come back to life. Pretty excited about that. I've also invited a woman named Kelly Hickler, Chief Officer for Synovation Studio. She is one of the founders of the new APA. It's not a division, it's an interest group called Community Engagement. And she and her work partner at different firms, Mark Haller, have put together a guidebook on community engagement with specific emphasis on using AI. So Kelly is going to join us. The time on that will be different. So I'll make sure, we maybe Carly can highlight that in a different way when the piece goes out on that, because she's actually working in Germany now. So a 3 o'clock meeting is around 9 o'clock their time. So we're going to move that to a morning. And then another program that I have booked probably for September is from Gabby Hart, who is a principal with Clarion Associates in Denver, Colorado. dealing with imposter syndrome. In 2024, she wrote an article and she was interviewed by Planning Magazine about this. The fear of feeling like you're not doing a good enough job. It really caught my eye. So I gave her a call. We had a good talk, and she's agreed to come talk to us. Upcoming webinar, July 10th. I want to give a shout out to Ernie Bauman. He's on the call. He's a member. Ernie's the CFO of Tool Design in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Sustainable, resilient streets and trails. And it's going to be, of course, offered through the Ohio Planning Webcast series. Ernie, do you want to talk about it briefly, about the lineup you've got? Yeah, I know you've got some excellent speakers for us.
Yeah, thanks, Vince. We've got a couple of speakers. Sarah Johnson, who is the Raleigh, North Carolina office director. She's a landscape architect and AICP certified planner. And we've also got Stephanie Wire, who's out of our Boston office, who is an engineer who does a lot of trail work as well. We are still hopeful to add a client or two on these projects to the speaking, to the roster of speakers. But I think it's going to be really informative. Yeah.
Excellent. Look forward to that. Real quickly, I'll wrap up. Potential future topics for conversations are how to get the most out of your division membership. Past Chair Steve gave me that idea, so I want to give him credit for that. Deb Meyerson has agreed to present that. She's the APA division liaison, but her schedule did not allow us to join us in the spring or summer, so we're trying to pick a date. And other possible topics would be a review of the election year issues, maybe at the end of the year or early next year. Same with trend analysis from APA staff members. As far as future webinars, we wanted to have more. We still have time for, I think, one more. There are only 3 dates left on the Ohio Planning Webcast Series calendar. It's the 2 Thursdays before Thanksgiving and December 4th. So it's a three of those 4 weeks, with Thanksgiving, of course, being unavailable. I'm kicking around a few topics. If anyone has ideas, please share them, because you all provide some great ideas in the past, and I'm sure it'll be that way in the future. I'm kicking around an idea regarding home rule reform and challenges in Florida, but I'd like to get it, maybe a topic in another state, and not necessarily relying on my home state and stuff I'm familiar with. So, I'd like to book the date. I'm going to talk to Christine Davis and see if I can just do that. But the challenge is they want a topic, and I don't blame them, because they don't want somebody to just hold it, and then that means somebody else wouldn't be able to get a viable program scheduled. So if you have any information on that, any ideas, please let me know. And Jeff, if you don't have a problem, could I cut out a little early, because I have some people waiting for me here on the trip I'm on. So
I get it. So, all right. Thanks, Vince. I appreciate it. Thanks for all your hard work you've been doing there.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Okay, great. Let's move on to communications. Corey, and I think Carly has to drop off. But let's go back to. Are you there, Corey?
I'm here. I'm happy to cover for from Carly as well, because I know that she has to drop. So and thank you for sharing my screen. Thank you. Wanted to give a brief update on the district divisions council communications grant that we received last year. We got $1,000 from the divisions council to create an infographic template for our private practice division handbook that we created the year prior. This is a template that we have not put into use yet, but but it was created by a firm called Capizzi Designs. This is a firm that was selected by the APA staff, if you will. They have a select group of firms that we can select from to do a work for us like this. They did excellent work to turn this around using all of our brand guidelines, brand best practices. The biggest thing right now is that we need volunteers from our membership to really put this template to work, taking things from our handbook and putting them into bite-sized pieces to turn around and put out to our members, put into newsletters, put into this infographic to build it out and to be usable, to give people just enough taste to go dive into the handbook and utilize it more. But this can be used for other things for us as well. So it's a great tool for us to have for the infographic. It's built in Canva, so it's going to be pretty simple for most people to use. Canva is a pretty widespread use for most people to use, and easy. The next item that we have been discussing is updating our newsletter template. Both Carly, me as the prior communications chair, Carly as the current communications chair, think that our newsletter is in need of a significant refresh. So we think that should be our next division council grant update. We're actually under contract with Capizzi Designs to do additional work. So applying to the divisions council for another round. That should be our next grant application. So we just need to put that into practice. Does anybody have any questions on that particular item?
Great.
I'm
Thanks.
looking forward to it. I'll say that. And
Yeah.
the risk management guidelines would be a part of the updated private practice handbook, and we could start with using that template, as a way of, before we even plug it into the handbook. I think that would be a good sort of trial run, if you will, or starting point.
Exactly.
Great. Thanks, Corey. Thanks, Carly. You guys are doing an awesome job. I really appreciate that. All right, let's keep moving on. We're got about 25 minutes left. We got Bob. Bob, can you give us an update on the member survey, please?
I can. Do you want to see the survey, the results of the survey to date, or you want me just to generally summarize?
You're muted, Jeff.
There you go. I thought I had the hand on the mute button and clicked it, but I didn't. Sorry. Thanks. I think just a general summary at this point. Anything that sticks out or anything that's an anomaly from our previous surveys would be appreciative.
I can't speak to the anomaly from the previous surveys. I hadn't reviewed those results. I will just give you some highlights. I don't know how long we want to leave it open. We've had 22 responses. I think the prior surveys had a little higher response rate than that. It may be worth another solicitation if the survey is to remain open. The survey, those that have responded indicate a real interest in networking, purpose of networking through the division, an interest in participating in a variety of ways that we ask. The least favored way of interacting is via Facebook. The most favored way is via the newsletters, the monthly newsletters. There are interest is expressed in the issue of the insurance very strongly. In terms of member responses, it's heavily weighted towards sole proprietors. There are a few respondents of larger firms, but smaller firms are heavily represented here in the response thus far. Also heavily represented is longtime professionals, just 10 to 20 and more than 20 years. So it's out there. I don't know when we need to close it, but I would suggest probably perhaps another solicitation, another round on it. I know we had a little trouble on the first link that was sent out, but anyway, that's where we are on the survey.
I would say we could keep it open through the end of the month, but we'll work with Corey and Carly on getting that reposted with the June newsletter, so everybody knows with that closing date, so that we can get more. I would
Yeah,
like to get more
if
with
you
our
could put
400
it,
plus members.
if you could put it in the newsletter with a heavy emphasis on the importance of responding to the survey, then maybe we'd get more responses. The last survey, we got over 80, I think it was 85. And I think if we approach it properly, we could get that many again. If we really hammer on the importance of getting the survey, the and that is still, put a deadline in there, like not later than or something like that, just to get people to respond. But I think most people respond that, the day the newsletter goes out is when you're going to get more than half of the people who ultimately do respond. The I took the survey, and I think we talked about conversations as a professional development opportunity, but it's really a networking opportunity. And
Yeah.
I'd like to maybe jiggle the wording a little bit in the survey itself to highlight the conversations as an opportunity for networking and not just for professional development. That was my response, when I actually sat down and took the survey. And it didn't look that way to me before, and I'm sorry I didn't comment on it earlier. But yeah, that's important. And I'm gratified to know that people are interested in the insurance issue, because we're plugging away on that. And anything we can get from the survey that would support our position would be helpful.
Yeah, this is Mark. I'd like to pick up on a comment Steve made. I think it would be helpful if we put a deadline in. We're trying to wrap together all our statistics. You really can't do that until you get all the responses in. So I endorse the idea of putting a deadline on
The end of the month, June 30th, that'd be great.
it.
But we have enough to use for now. But when we do the performance report, it might help to have, more responses. And that's not due
So
until November.
so that June 30, I mean, that's 12 days away. The newsletter goes out when?
Well, it doesn't have to be June 30. I just picked that out of my top of my head.
Okay. Corey, do you know? For some reason I had in my head that it was going out tomorrow, but I don't know.
Harley's intention was to have it go out very shortly.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah,
Unless
I
I
would
spoke to
just
her.
hammer the survey. If you don't have a lot of text, just make the headline bigger.
And most people, like you said, Steve, they're going to take it immediately, or they're not going to take it.
Yeah.
If everybody gets busy. I mean, I don't know how many emails I get I'm like, I'll lose it if I don't do it right now. So I got to go do them right away.
You make a June 30 deadline, and then if you don't get a decent response, you just announce that
Extend
the
it.
deadline's been
Yeah.
extended. I can't tell you how many calls for papers I've seen that are like that.
Yeah.
That's true. All right, great. Other questions on the survey? All right. Tanya, can you review our financials?
I can. Trying to. I had to shift places. So let me see here. Okay. So, good afternoon, everybody. And this is my first year with this. So, just as a heads up, trying to move.
Not only is it your first year, but for those of you who don't know, APA is going through an entire renovation of their platform. So
Yeah.
the previous tools that were available to us on monthly reporting have not been available, and it's been
Yep.
a challenging year for lots of different reasons.
Yep. So, trying to make this just a little bit smaller. Apologize one moment. Okay. So we got this is what we have in terms of our division report for the annual budget this year. So we're starting out basically with fiscal year 27 starting in July with $15,620.72. There are a number of expenditures that we are expecting. Let's see, we're going to be and things aren't going to be all that dissimilar. There's going to be I mentioned something else in a moment. So we're going to be next year we're going to be having expenses related to the MPC just as it was previously. The chair Jeff will be traveling. Money towards the reception. We did a joint reception this year in Detroit with the transportation division and then the Michigan planning chapter, the host chapter. Wildly attended, perhaps too small of a venue, but we anticipate that we would be going in at least with the transportation division again for next year. So there'd be a cost for that, as well as just like some minor supportive, we call them advertising, but little things to kind of just support, put the word out
I'm
about
sorry I missed
PPD.
that.
Oh,
In
yeah,
the
sure.
highlight of the conference, I think both division members, private practice and transportation, have reported back that it was the thing at the conference that they enjoyed the most.
Oh,
So,
good. Yeah.
yeah, we
There's a
definitely need
lot
to
of
do that again.
people in a smaller place though.
Well,
Uh,
and we had the first time we did it with the transportation planning division, it was it was like half of the city of New York hanging out at a bowling alley with pizza. I mean, but it was pretty raucous. I wasn't sure I wanted to do it again, but yeah, I guess a lot of it depends on the setting.
yeah, I mean, it seemed to be, I mean, there was some snafu with the food, but planners tend to sort of, rise to the challenge, kind of looking for the bright spots. I think everybody had a good time there. So, other expenses that we anticipate going on, we do something with MailChimp, so that will continue. The grant for risk management will also be winding down, but is a continued expense for next year. We will maintain access to the Ohio webinars, as was talked about previously, and offer them to our members as a part of being able to get your AICP credits, which is great, as well as expand our knowledge and ongoing expertise. And then we anticipate taking on what's called a liability insurance study. And I don't know, Jeff, if you could talk a little bit about your idea because that cost is going to be, we're estimating around $10,000. Jeff, do you mind just sharing, since this is your idea, what that might anticipate, just briefly?
That'll be on in my work plan, so it's coming up next.
Okay, great. Let me go back to sharing. And let's see. So all of that will end up, we started out with, roughly just over $15,000. We will end up with roughly roughly just over $6,000, but $6,645.94. So we'll be spending down the amount of money that we had to start out with due to this liability insurance, which Jeff will talk about next. But those are our anticipated costs. That is all I have, unless someone has some questions or if there's something that I should also be talking about, please let me know.
I just want to add to that, so we come into this fiscal year with about a $15,000 budget or fund, that's unexpended. So to me, that's not good for our membership to just sit on a bunch of money. We should be utilizing it. We should be benefiting our members as best as possible. So doing some brainstorming, that's where we came up with some of the things we've been working on the risk management side and how we're being able to do that, and working with some outside professionals, as Steve had mentioned, on the risk liability side of it, and really getting into that next phase to hopefully spend that down. And then I'll get into some of the details on what that um, insurance liability study hopefully will show us and result in benefit our members.
If I can also add, I should have also at the beginning, one of our income streams right now, right? APA is allowing people to join divisions for free. So right now, you could say we're having more members than we have had in the past, because essentially APA is allowing people to kind of try it. See, what do the divisions sort of offer in terms of a value add for them as a part of their membership. So right now, we have APA is sending us the names, but also the number of new members we are getting each month in terms of a division, and that's also increasing our revenue. So I can't remember if we're in the middle of the 2-year period or at the end of it, but in a little while, that free trial period will end. I don't know what is in store. Jeff might know in terms of what APA might be doing after that period, but that is a way that we're generating revenue right now. That's not really like an explicit cost, or I should say an explicit like revenue that in the past there was a little difference in the way that it was calculated and was advertised. So right now it's kind of nice to have a sort of a bump. And we'll see if that continues as time moves forward, depending on how APA considers, access, cost, et cetera, for the division. So that's just the other thing I wanted to add. That's all I've got.
On the revenue side, so ABA just restructured on how they do the revenues and decided that it was beneficial for every member to be part of a division. So while they didn't really just offer for free, they increased dues and then gave everybody a free division membership of your choice. So as everyone renews their annual membership and whatever else you also join with AICP or other chapter memberships, all of that will be included in that. And then at that point, you select a division that you choose to join, and you could also choose to join multiple divisions. I believe that they're at $25 a piece for joining additional divisions or interest groups. So their idea behind that is to try to get more involvement in the divisions and getting more benefit out of your membership from that perspective. That money should continue to flow to us. The 400 plus members that we have that are not students is where that division budget and revenue actually comes from. And it will be based off of, generally based off of a formula that APA has, based off of the number of people you have with a base. So if you're a very small division, it may not just be your membership, but you get a bonus from some of that. And as well as some of the larger divisions don't get exactly the same amount.
I have a question for Bob based on what we just heard. Did the survey indicate that private practice division members are primarily members of the private practice division, or that it's a secondary membership? You're muted, Bob. You're still muted.
Sorry.
Okay.
Gotcha. Question 18 asks that question: is your private practice division membership primary or secondary? Currently, 55% show primary membership and 45% show secondary membership.
That question seemed confusing because I swear when I renew my membership, I just check boxes for all the divisions I want to be a part of and it adds it to my membership. So I don't know that there's a primary
Hmm.
on the registration. So I was a little perplexed by that question.
Well, there's no way of knowing unless you ask. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, because, and that's why we put it in the survey. I mean, in my experience as a division member, there have been divisions I've joined because I thought, what the hell is $25? And then I never really played a role in that division. If
Yeah,
I'm
I
a
think.
if I'm a transportation planner, um, I really want to know what that's going on, and maybe I'll just also, you know, keep tabs on the private practice division. And we can't count on that kind of member to play an active role. So it's important to us to know if they take their private practice division members seriously or not. That's what the
Okay,
purpose of the
that
question was.
But to
that
that
wasn't
point,
necessarily clear. And how
oh
am I
yeah,
supposed to decide between like women in planning and private practice division if I'm going to be equally involved or not involved in both? And that's where I guess the wording of that question could have been different to be like, do you intend to be an active member in the
Mhm.
division?
Because I don't know what primary and secondary actually meant. Might have been helpful to have a little definition after the question of what primary and secondary means. I'm a member of three different divisions, including this one, and I pay my membership fee for each one. That doesn't mean because I'm a member of this, that I'm a secondary member of something else. So I'm a primary member in each one. That's my comment.
Well,
That's thanks. Those are good comments. So we can note that for our next
Mhm.
survey, or maybe even when we send this back out for the next 2 weeks, we could just note their level of commitment as opposed to being a
Mhm.
primary or secondary.
Mhm.
All right. Thanks, Mark and Rose. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
and I
I
have to
think
leave at 2 o'clock for another appointment, so just to
Okay.
keep that up.
All right.
I
Uh,
think I can go in and adjust that question or add commentary to that question without disturbing the results so far. Should I do that?
yes,
yeah. Yes,
Yeah, I think that's
please.
a good
Go
idea.
ahead and do that.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, let's move on then. I'm going to share what the work plan here that I've got. So hopefully everybody can see that. All
not
right.
yet.
The work
Oh
plan come up.
man, this is a bear. This is one reason why I'm glad I'm not the chair anymore.
Well, it's on the
Yeah,
screen.
this took some effort. Thankfully I had the previous work plans that we can come through and update. The majority of this, really 90% of it, is exactly the same, or it's just been updated with dates and so forth. So we've got a lot going on, especially on the communication side, to continue what we've been doing. Reiterate some of the things that, and I'm not going to go through every line here in detail. Some of the things Corey and Carly had talked about with taking the infographics, putting that into the handbook, as well as then creating a new template. Hopefully, we were able to get a grant ultimately to do that, for creation of a new newsletter that would make it a little bit easier for those individuals, because it is a fairly big effort and a lot of lift for them to do every single month, and it's greatly appreciated for what they continue to do. That also then goes into the APA webpage for private practice, so those can continue to be updated on a monthly basis. Um, that's kind of it on the communication side of it. Then I'll go down to professional development. We plan to continue to do our conversations, and have those, even though, as we just talked about, they're a little bit of a networking thing. I would totally agree. We want to continue to offer those, as well as our up to 4 webinars a year, doing that, and then encouraging our membership to submit to the national sessions, and then being able to endorse those, and encourage our members to not only participate in the national via speaker circuits, but be able to join as well on the social and the networking side. So that's what's shown here in item 2 and 3. It's pretty similar to what we've been doing. There's nothing major deviation from what had been previously done. Also, then on the membership side, we're getting ready to go into another phase, a new year, 2-year phase of the FAICP. Bob, who chaired the FAICP committee this year, that was a big lift. That's a lot of effort. So we'll continue to recruit from our membership to for applications for FAICP, help provide some mentoring along the way for those individuals who this fall we want to start reaching out to all of our members or see who's interested in applying for FAICP for this next 2-year round. And that needs to take place up here in the fall of 26 because it takes about a year or so to get that application done. It's a pretty big effort. There's several of you on the call I know that are already at FAICP and have gone through that or have already submitted. So we'll continue to do that as well. On the leadership side, we're continuing to participate in the 2 annual semi-annual meetings on the leadership with November and then April. So there'll be a leadership meeting and then the annual planning conference. Continue to work with other chapters as we've worked with the law chapter quite a bit, as well as the transportation chapter. We want to continue to collaborate with them and be able to do those for webinars especially. We're going to support the APA initiatives on the value of a planner, and then get into the risk management piece of it that Steve had talked about previously. This is where Carly had noted that we were budgeting $10,000 to do this. The idea behind this, as I had realized when we started working with the risk management group and figuring out why is planning liability insurance so expensive? I have friends that are sole proprietor civil engineers that pay almost half of what I pay as a planner, which to me doesn't make any sense. They mess something up and then somebody gets hurt or killed or something like that. Seems like they should have much more liability than as a planner. If I mess something up, we go back to city council the next month. There's really not as much liability. Through the course of the conversations that we've had with some of the members of the insurance industry and doing our risk management and trying to figure out how we bring that down, some of the things that we can institute are best practices in the risk management to help reduce our liability and reduce our liability insurance. But as well, when they do the underwriting for a planner, we get all thrown together in one giant bucket. So a transportation planner, an environmental planner. Thanks, Mark. An entitlement planner, every planner that's out there. And as you know, there's hundreds of different roles as a planner. So every liability that's associated with every planner always gets thrown into that giant bucket. So that's where you end up as particularly the sole proprietors are paying a pretty substantial portion or premium on your liability insurance. To be able to reduce that, the conversations we've had, we need to clearly define some roles and some silos of planners. Like, here's what a transportation planner does. Here's what an environmental planner does. Here's what a housing planner does. Here's what an entitlement planner. And we can narrow that down to, maybe 8 or 10 different specific categories. And then with each one, working with the insurance agency industry, excuse me, and maybe at this point even hiring an actuary to help do some underwriting and determine what those liabilities are, we could create that background information to give to the insurance industry to put us into those individual categories to ultimately reduce the liability insurance for each individual planner. So it more accurately reflects what your true liability is, and that you're not covering a policy that covers lots of other planning liabilities that you're not even exposed to in a regular basis. So that's the idea to get that going. And that's what we're planning to work on this next year. That's the major change. Any questions or comments in regards to that initiative that we're doing as a private practice division?
It looks good to me. I would say that that's a good approach to the mentorship program, which is something we've been trying to initiate for a couple of years. We need to have probably need to have a student representative. We need that position filled in order to pursue that objective. I would say that. And we need to make sure that whoever fills that position is really going to play the part, so to speak. It's difficult, especially for students. They're only students for a certain amount of time.
That's true. Student membership is a challenge, and so we need to reach out to that student body and see who we can get involved. And that we do have several student members, so we have a lot of options.
Okay, another thing is that in terms of member retention, I think there was something in the work plan about a new member message and a message sent to people who have left the division. Is that still in there?
Yeah, we have that here where we were going to, it might be under administration. There was a new member welcome packet that we were doing.
Yeah, there you go. Because I was surprised that we were in a conversation and I said something about members being entitled to a free copy of the private practice handbook, and somebody said, "You mean there's a private practice handbook?" I mean, it's been it's been a part of the collective life of the division for so long that we don't realize that new members might not also be aware of it.
Yeah, so that's part of that. Here's include promote private practice as a tool for new member recruitment. Include handbook with member outreach strategy. So it's that member outreach strategy that you're referring to, Steve.
Oh, look, Rose wants a copy.
It's very helpful. I've had other planners reach out to me that are in the public sector that are saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about going into the private sector. How do I do that?" And I've pointed them back to that. I said, "Hey, if you become a member, on your own, probably, because I think most public agencies are probably not going to pay for them to be a private practice member. They would get that free." And I had a hard copy with me at NPC, and I was able to share what that was, and then share how, when I left the big engineering firm that kind of covered a lot of those things for me, when I was stepping out on my own and I knew that I had to create my own business plan, some of those things that were very helpful in the private practice handbook got me set up right away. And it wasn't like I was marching down the road 3 months into my private practice and went, "Whoa, I don't have X and Y and Z." All of those things were already there that I had built into my business plan and my marketing and insurance and so forth. So it was an extremely helpful document and very easy to read.
Is it more geared towards setting up a sole proprietorship and running your own firm?
It's broad. It covers everything, but it definitely covers a lot of things if you do have a small proprietorship. Yes, a sole proprietorship. or a small firm?
It's not just for sole proprietors, but I should point out that most of the active members of our division, I think the survey will bear this out, are uh, in smaller firms, smaller organizations. If you're part of a large firm, you're not, your firm takes care of you. So the division tends to get the rest of us.
I've worked for
Carl,
firms between 12 and 3,000 staff. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
we're definitely on the 12 side. But there are firms with 3,000 staff that have two planners, if you will. And
right.
the handbook might be useful for them as well, because you're definitely going against the tide in a lot of situations as a planner in a larger firm that's oriented to a different profession.
all right. Our communication chair, Carly, you have a question?
Actually, that's Owen, and I don't know why my hand is there. So if I lower my hand, I think I lower Carly. So something weird. So that's Owen, not Carly. So I have two comments which are totally unrelated to each other. One related to the work program on the mentorship idea. So far, we've had two or three major issues. I'm mentioning those because I think the board is fundamentally new. Number
I got locked
one,
out.
I'm sorry, what? Am I, can you all hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead, Owen.
Oh, okay. Somebody said somebody was locked out.
Yeah,
So,
mine went, my screen is telling me that my connection is unstable, so everybody froze for about a minute, 30 seconds.
okay. So mentorship program number one. So now I continue to get inquiries, not from students, not from young people, from older people. And I'm not dealing with those adequately. That's really where the interest is, not students. So what I want someone to help me or us discuss that, redirect or reaffirm the direction. And I don't know that today is the day to have that conversation, other than I've reached out to several other divisions, all seemingly interested, and then at least a couple of the people that I had spoken with in other divisions then turned out to be people that wanted to know other things that weren't students. So there is a misalignment, or at least the way I'm handling things. So that's comment number one. Comment number two, when Steve was chair, I shared with him a resource that we should be able to reactivate as a benefit of private practice division membership. For whatever reason, something introduced in the early 90s, at the risk of really showing how old I am, was called the Standards of Practice. And it was published by APA, and it was done by whatever was the equivalent of the private practice division at that point in time. I sent Steve, I think, Xerox copies. Oh, do we even use those words anymore? Photocopies of some of the pages to identify the authorship committee, and at least one of the authoring members is deceased, one is long retired, and then there's me and a few other people that's it. Yes, that's it. You'll see my name on the back somewhere, wherever the authors are. So
Yeah.
it has not been formally identified as being out of print, but it's silly that we don't activate that and give that away as part of our practice, or part of our membership package. That's it for me.
Owen, I'm going to second what you're saying there. I approached the AICP Commission 6 years ago, 7 years ago, say, I use this frequently. There's standards here for expert witness stuff. There's standards for using a stamp when you stamp an opinion that you might develop. I considered it absolutely excellent. and it's old and it needs a refresh. And I think the AICP commission sponsored it. And then there was an AICP professional practice committee. I heartily second that. I've never been able to get any. I was dismissed by the president of the organization at the time, and I've never been able to get any traction. But yeah, this is a valuable piece of work.
I think I still have the cover page, but what I've discovered recently is that there's hardly that it's incredible what you can find on eBay for used reports. And for all I know, there's somebody with a stack of 50 of these in his basement, and he's just waiting to sell them. Um, it's amazing. I mentioned at a executive committee meeting this game called Prize Property, which is a great game, and you can just get it on eBay for like 30 or 40 bucks. And it's it's not as high-minded as what you might get through a professional channel, but it's very it's a fun game to play. It's kind of like Risk for planners, and it's so yeah, but you can get that on eBay. So maybe we could find a way to, well, but you mentioned that it's also out of date, it needs it needs an update, but boy,
Yeah,
that would be something to do.
yeah.
We'll
It's
take a look.
different from the handbook, though. I mean, you would say, I would think so.
Yeah, the handbook is more business oriented. This is how do you practice when there's a need for a standard practice procedure? And again, particularly in cases of expert witness work, when you can reference, you followed a methodology, it's published by the um, by the commission, and then put a stamp on it. It's lends to
Yeah.
credibility.
Well, that might, I mean, that plays directly into value of planning. I mean, the fact that what we keep talking about, I'm sorry, we're running rampant off the subject, Jeff. But the whole thing with value of planning is there needs to be more of a distinction between a qualified expert professional planner and somebody who puts a nameplate on his door and says, I'm a planner now, or someone who is anointed as a planner because he's not a registered professional engineer and the firm wants to hire him anyway. So, yeah, I would love to have some kind of a
But
certification requirement like that.
just a quick anecdote, Jeff, I promise, 30 seconds. I'm probably the only one of the few, if not the only planner in the United States that has a stamp. It has my
I
certificate
didn't know we
number.
even had stamps.
Well, this professional practice manual describes the rules for using a stamp. And so when on an expert witness case report, for example, I will stamp it that I followed the methodology set forth for expert witnesses, which is simple stuff like, obviously following the code of ethics and then making site visits on any case. You have to go look at this, put your feet on the site, you certify you went and looked at the site and other things. But anyway, off topic, it's a valuable thing that should be refreshed.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm going to go ahead and add that to the work plan so we can start exploring that. It sounds like a very good endeavor and something that would benefit our membership. So that's great.
Well,
Thanks for bringing that up.
Owen/Carly will try to find a copy that I can somehow scan and share with the other members.
Yeah,
Quick Google
Well,
search did not bring anything up, including anything for sale.
Uh,
I've got it
well,
right here. I'm happy to scan it. I'm sure it's a copyright
well, I
violation,
actually
but
have to look for mine, which may not really be in my personal possession. So if Robert, you have your fingers on it, um, there's reasons I may not have access to it related to my actual formal workspace. but if you don't mind,
Technical standards, standard of care, maintenance of records, responsibility for technical competence, da 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 da. Special rules for expert witnesses. Yeah.
I would say that if you could just photocopy the title page that has the exact title and the identified authors, then if you search for it on Google with those details, you might be more successful than Rose was.
do you have a Library of Congress number in the flyleaf page, Bob? I don't remember.
Yeah,
Anybody?
it was copyrighted in '97. There's no
Okay.
reference to Library of Congress.
Okay.
There's probably a 97. I'm guessing that was a word perfect document, which that can still be utilized today. But
Well, it's newer than I thought it was, which is one thing.
Yeah, well,
I
it's
was
just that
AICP already by then.
I say 97 is older than I thought it was, to put it that way. Same difference, I guess, just from a different perspective.
All right. Other questions or comments on the work plan? Thank you, Owen. I appreciate that we're adding something there.
I'm going to move adoption of the work program with the amendments discussed and described and agreed to by the chair. Can we do that?
Yeah, we could do that. Can you add the budget to that too? Because they're intrinsically tied.
Yes. But I would like to make two motions, one for the work plan and one for the budget.
Okay.
Second on the work program.
Let's do a voice call vote. All in favor of adopting the work plan as presented and amended with the mentoring, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, that carries.
Okay, and now I would recommend adoption of the budget with every modification, which including with any modifications that might be necessary for consistency with the adopted work plan.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thanks, Owen. Do a voice call vote again. All in favor of adopting the budget as presented with any additions needed to be consistent with the work plan, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. See none, that also passes. All right, that brings us to the end of everything that we had in the agenda, except for open discussion.
Well, we've had a lot of that.
I didn't do a very good job of keeping this on track from that perspective.
No, that's not your fault. That's our fault.
I always expect my planning commission chairs to be better than that. But anyway, probably need to read my standards manual a little bit and figure out how to keep somebody going better there. Other questions or comments or concerns, or any other member wants to bring up any topic that we could be good for private practice division or APA?
No, just keep on keeping on.
No? All right. Seeing none, then we will adjourn at 2:20 Eastern Time. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate all your efforts. And always feel free to reach out to me or anybody else on the committee if you have other ideas or any suggestions or are struggling in a particular area, and we can help you out. So,
okay.
Thank you for your hour and 20 minutes. I appreciate it.
Take care,
everybody.
Thank you, Jeff.
Everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.